Olá, boa noite. Aqui é o Heverton Anunciação, mais uma vez com o episódio Personal of the Week dessa semana. Eu sou o Heverton Anunciação, consultor, escritor em CRM, experiência do cliente. Eu criei essa revista semanal para trazer uma pessoa importante do mundo dos negócios, do atendimento ao cliente, do Brasil e do exterior, para compartilhar a história deles aqui no nosso canal. Primeira coisa, eu convido você a se inscrever e assinar as notificações. E antes de mais nada, eu trago uma novidade para vocês, que é o quê? A partir de hoje, o nosso patrocinador exclusivo é a Zorro CRM. Ela está patrocinando nossa live, é os maiores CRMs do mundo, com várias soluções na nuvem, e traz realmente a sua parceria em acreditar no nosso projeto. Então, Zorro CRM, seja bem-vinda ao nosso projeto e nossa cultura de atendimento ao cliente. E você, caso não fale inglês, não entenda a conversa que eu vou ter com a Mary em poucos instantes, o que faz? Assim que você terminar a live aqui, você acessa o endereço e ativa a tradução automática no YouTube. E aí você vai conseguir entender a tradução simultânea, tá? E aí, com isso, agora eu posso falar. Quem é minha convidada dessa semana? Mary, ela vive em Mountain View, na Califórnia, Estados Unidos. Ela é Master Degree em Business Information System pela Universidade de Georgia State. Atualmente, ela trabalha para Knock Knock Labs, em San José, Califórnia. Ela foi executiva-chefe de empresas como Medical Cui, Evergo, Quava, e ela foi vice-presidente de suporte e serviço da Avantive, um dos principais sistemas de CRM. E o mantra dela é o quê? Qualquer desafio que ela atue tem que ser divertido. As I said, her mantra is, any challenger or company that she has to work for has to be fun. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction.
Yeah, welcome to come with us to share your story. Everything's okay with you? Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.
As I told you, I always reading, I always make research about the background of technology concept, and I found, oh my God, there is a people who create this. Almost 15 years ago, I have to find this girl and try to talk with her. I'm happy to have you here.
Well, I'm honored that you have me here.
Okay, let's start. First of all, I want to remind everybody, the concept of or implementation of customer success was not invented or implemented by Salesforce or Siebel. It was done at Vantive, a CRM software company. I'm happy because in 1999, I started to work with CRM exactly in CRM company in Brazil. I like a lot to learn. For me, it was the best software at that time because it was very interesting company and was considered one of the best top software in the world at that moment. So most of the software provided, Mary, had failed until 1996. However, in 1996, 1997, you were contracted by John Luongo at Vantive to innovate it. You create the concept of customer success at Vantive. However, it took him, as you said, you take almost 1 year to get him, to convince him to create this customer success. How did you do to convince him to create this area, this concept in the company?
Well, it did take a little bit of time, but I will really give Vantive the credit because they had the environment in order to make it possible. They had the executives, they had the board members. I look back after you and I began talking, thinking back to those days and recognized that I joined the company because when I had been a customer of Vantive's when I was in Atlanta and I moved to California. And part of what really intrigued me about the company was that they gave me a book called Total Customer Service by Bill David Au. And I read it from cover to cover. And I would say it is still, after all these years, one of the best customer service books that is available. And what David Dow says in that is that customer service is not a department. It is everything about what your company is. And it should be something that is throughout the company. And so as I began to work for John at Vantiv, he kept talking about us needing to have a account management position because we weren't controlling these accounts, and the accounts were, the projects weren't being successful, and that we should have a project manager or an account manager and charge the customer for it. And I kept saying, no, you can't charge them for it. You cannot charge it. It needs to be out of the services organization because people will trust the people in services. And at that point, I said, let's call it customer success management. And this person will be responsible for the success of the company. That's for the customer. And that's their only job, is to ensure that that customer is going to be successful. And we'll introduce them in the sales process. But in the very early days of it, I think he let me add maybe 3 CSMs. I didn't get to have one for every account, but I will let you ask questions. But what ended it at the end of that year, and what allowed me to build the program out further, was we found that of the accounts where I had added a CSM to the account, the revenue growth in those accounts was 300% higher than the accounts where we did not have a CSM. And so I proved the point to John that it wasn't just about being nice. It wasn't altruism. It was that when you take care of the customers and you make sure that they're successful, then we were going to be successful. And it turned out. We were correct in our assumption.
So you validate, you create, and you have to validate, and you got the success, right? That's the point, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I was able to prove that there was a return for doing it.
Yeah, good. But with this point, I brought my question. Commission. At Vanti, you create the area called the customer success. At first thing, you have to change the mental model of your team. This was the phrase. This is the customer success team that's going to ensure that you are successful using Vantiv. At your compensation is based on success. How was the behavior of your team? Because most of the salesmen, they sell, they got the commission and go in. It's not the problem to customer service and the delivery of the solution, but just the commission. How was your you work with this guy to change the mental model of this guy?
Well, it's interesting. It was there was a lot of behavior modification that we had to have within the company. With this team, it wasn't a commission. They didn't get commission off that 300% increase. They weren't compensated for that at all. They were compensated on, one, whether we were getting all the information into the CRM system ourselves to make sure that we knew what our customers were. But we also would set expectations of the customer, and then we would have means to measure how successful the customer felt that they were. And this was what their bonuses were based on. And it was just a bonus amount. It wasn't related back to revenue in any way. And then that was put them in the position where they could look at a customer and say, you know what, I was talking to this other customer and they were doing this and I thought I would bring it to you. And the customer would say, oh yeah, well, maybe we would want to do that. And at this point, the services person could say, I don't sell it. If you want me to bring your sales rep back, I can do that. But if you want to think about it a while, you can. And so it created a stronger relationship and a stronger bond of trust. And I don't mean to put any sales rep down. They can be the most trustworthy person in the world, but a customer is always going to think that that person is just trying to sell them something. And so an interesting story I'll share with it is that one of our sales reps came to me because I had been recruiting another woman in the company to be one of the first CSMs, and he talked her out of it. The sales rep talked her out of doing it. And I said, why would you do that? And he said, because it's not going to be a very good job. It's not going to be an enjoyable job. And then I looked at him and I said, Ted, what do you enjoy most about your job as a sales rep? And he goes, the relationship with the customer, helping them succeed, interacting with them over time. And I said, what do you like the least about your job? And he said, the quota. And I go, you know what? she's getting the good part of the job, and I just messed you up, right? And he came into my office about a week later, and he said, I hate you. And I said, why? And he said, because you just made me realize I'm a mercenary and I'm only doing this for the money. And he goes, I should want to be the CSM because it is the greatest joy I get is that part of the job that you're now taking from me and giving it to someone else. And so we were able to, the people that were the first CSMs loved their jobs. They will still tell you it was the best thing they ever got to do in their career. Because there is that feeling of accomplishment that you have.
Because most of professional has to see that the customer the always is regard people to people. They don't like process, but they like people, the person that they're involved to. That's the point. Now my question is, the corporate world, the most of
I
corporate
should have
world.
sent you so many pictures.
The corporate world has learned that not using female intuition can be a long-term loss. In this business world with more hunters, salesmen than farmers, the people who take care, they have patience to grow with the customer. Hiring more women could improve the empathy with a human being. While you are everybody's as this in this image and photo, everybody's looking for another side, and you are in front looking in another difference. How how you think the female intuition, can improve the business as you improve the and create this new area?
That's a very interesting question. When I read it, I thought, oh, I have no idea how I'm going to answer that question for him. Because I think that for me in my career, I have often never thought about being a woman, and I don't think about what it is that I have brought to an organization because I am. But as I look back on it, I do remember a different story of once where I left Harbinger, the company I left to go to work for Vantive. And when I left, I was the only female CEO or female executive on the team. I wasn't a CEO at that point. And one of the guys said, I so hope that we'll replace you with another woman. And at the point I said, why would you say that? Because I thought he was going to say it's because women are more empathic and are better at services and taught us that. And I thought that's where he was going. But he came back and said, Marie, you gave us such a feminine touch and a feminine viewpoint to what we were doing. And he goes, we so needed it. And he goes, we didn't even realize we needed it. He goes, I think that for the women's movement, you guys shouldn't be saying we can do everything you can. You should be saying we can do things you can't. And so I would say over my career, when I look at the CSMs that I've hired, there are just as many men that are empathic and would do this job just as well as a woman. So I don't want to say that women don't bring something different to the workplace. I think we absolutely do, and we have a different vantage point. But I don't think that with this specific role, that it had anything to do with my feminine side or those particularly feminine traits. It may have. It caused me to think about that. But I do look and think that for me, it was purely a business decision that if you were going to make sure a company was successful, you had to have a process. You had to be focused on their success. I'll share this story because I think it helps here in what we were trying to accomplish. At one point, the sales rep told me that he wanted me to speak to a big customer that we were trying to sign, and that this was a make or break conversation for the company in this deal. And so as I sat down with this man, he came back and said, well, we had a failed implementation of Siebel. We've had a failed implementation of Clarify. What's going to be different with you? And if I'm being honest with everyone, my heart was pounding. Right? I thought, oh my God, how do I answer this? And I looked at him for a minute and I said, my rep was right. This is going to be make or break. And he said, why? And I said, well, as I'm sitting here, I have to tell you that Siebel has a great product. And they have thousands of successful implementations. And I said, Clarify has a great product, and they have over 1,000 successful implementation. So as I sit here today, I have to tell you that you are the common denominator in this failure. And I said, so what's going to be different with me is that I know how to make you successful. And I have a plan and a program in place. And I'm going to guide you through that. And I'm going to be firm and directive with what you need to do. But you have to trust me. When we sign that contract, we become one virtual corporation. And you have to trust your success to me, because I've had a lot of success with it. And I need you and your team to let us guide you through this. And he looked up and he goes, you're right. It was make or break, and you just closed the deal for us. And I was so glad that I told him that, because later I did have to call him and tell him his team wasn't getting done what they needed to get done, right? And he goes, you told me you were going to have this call. And so I think in a lot of cases, what people don't recognize about customer success is that it's not about going out and making nice and just the relationship. It's about finding those people to be on your team that can have that conversation. And in some ways that is very maternal or very parent oriented, right? Where I care enough about this, and I'm strong enough and I'm confident enough in it to tell you that you can be better than this. I can tell you the things that we need to do that you're not getting done. And so it's not a fluff position, right? It's not reacting to the customer. It is about driving the customer and making sure they're successful.
Yeah, you're right. Now that we talked about the Vantive, look who is going to watch this interview, who is watching. Look the result of the Vantive from 0.5 million to 160 million in annual revenue. They became a standard CRM industry. Vantive was acquired by PeopleSoft. I worked for PeopleSoft too during the transition in Brazil. And then Oracle bought PeopleSoft and Siebel, because Vantive has all the story that other companies they didn't have in the moment. That the importance of the Vantive with this success during the story when Mary was working there. That you felt proud about this for sure, right?
Yes, I did feel proud about that, but I will tell you that probably my greater pride is that we did it in a way where we felt we were working to enrich the lives of the people that worked with us and the customers that worked with us as well. And so there was a very there was a value system that was in the company at Vantive. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier with that I was in an environment where it was ripe for me to be able to do the things and take the innovative steps I wanted to, because there was a real compassion for the customer. There was a real desire to do the right thing. I know that with Vantive, there were times where we would walk away from business because we would tell them we weren't the right solution for them. There were times where John had the courage to make the hard decisions, to tell the truth, just tell the truth and let people know things. And so I think as much as we had fun building this and the creativity of it and doing something new, it was really about improving that success. And so, but we were in an environment that allowed for that.
Yeah. Another point, I made a research here in some social network. Look what you create in the marketing. Using LinkedIn, for example, as search, we have now in LinkedIn in professional in the world 4 million. In Brazil, 127,000. In CRM, we have 7 million. In Brazil, 203,000. In professional in sales, in after sales, we have 51 million. In professional in Brazil, 157,000. There are a lot of association of customer success in the world. I highlight just two. There are many platforms that I found in how to implement customer success in the company. I showed here just 3 of them. So as everything about this was created about this, what you did. Uh, you think that all proportion that you got with this creation, you think that you could imagine, realize all this proportion? Because if you see customer success, work with a CRM, with a salesman, with marketing, you think you put in the right moment in the history of the technology or business. What do you think about this? Because you create a career, you create a business for sure too.
You know, when I look at that, I can say I had no idea. I mean, I really have to say that when we were doing it and the things that we were creating, you said at the beginning that I always just took jobs that I thought would be fun. And we were having fun. And we'll talk, you know, we were doing something that was different, right? At that point, we were doing something that highly differentiated us in the marketplace because no one else was doing it, right? But I do have to say that I was a little bit taken aback looking at those numbers because after we did it, I didn't look back. I wasn't thinking that I had created
But for
anything
example,
like that.
after that, I found you, but other professional, other company, they try to bring out your lodgement for other company, for expertise, for training. Because I want to try to bring you with your knowledge here for Brazil, to try this empathy, not to, because most of the people want to speed up they fix some problem in the company, but sometimes you have to change the culture.
Yep, it is. If people look at my background, you'll find that my undergraduate degree is in music therapy. And
Oh,
so I have a lot of classes in psychiatry or psychology and actually worked as a therapist for a while. And I will tell you that so much of this, I talk about it in terms of behavior modification, right? It's a change in thought. It's a change in the way that we behave. I love the fact that you are honing in on the word empathy in all of this. There's a lot of talk. I was listening to a podcast the other day about a doctor over at Stanford that's studying empathy. And it occurred to me that people think in terms of empathy being that I feel someone else's pain and that I'm recognizing the pain that they're going through. Um, I want to be on a mission to tell people that empathy includes feeling someone's joy as well. And I think that's why we love doing the customer success part of it the way that we did. Was it wasn't just that we saw their pain. When we succeeded and we accomplished it, we felt the joy of it as well. And so there's that whole breadth of relating to other people that can be involved in it.
yeah,
And I think that's why a lot of people do the job, is because of when they are highly passionate about it and doing it the right way. That's a
yeah,
big part of what is empowering them.
yeah. As you are continue to work, you have a lot of work that you have done after that Vantive. But nowadays, you see people, you think that most of the professional or company, they are using the proper way the customer success, or no, they make, because for example, Fred, who created the NPS, said most of the company, they are using NPS in the wrong way.
Um,
And about customer success, you see company using the proper way or what you create, or no, they are trying to mix up something.
um, you know what? I would say there's a broad range in the way that it's being used. I would say there is a broad range in what a customer success manager does and how it's defined in various companies. Um, Sadly, I would tell you that I think most people aren't doing what we were doing. That doesn't mean it's not the right way. It just means that it wasn't what we envisioned. And so, to give you an idea of some of the things that we were doing at that time, were we would go in and yes, we would get to know an account during the sales process. And we would explain, this is the person. This is who you're buying. This is the person that's going to make you successful. But then as soon as we signed, we would have a kickoff meeting and we would review everything that had been signed and we would review everything that we would be offering. And the key to us was expectation setting.
Yeah.
We wanted to ensure anybody's success or to ensure anybody's happiness, you have to know what they expect. And so we were so excited. I remember I started this program and said, in these kickoff meetings, I want you to ask the customers, what if you think you're going to be successful, how are you going to measure that? And what is it you expect from us in order to help you be successful? I was so excited for us to go into accounts to do this. And the customers didn't like it at all to begin with. And I had to adjust and think, why are they getting so upset? And what I recognized was I was putting the responsibility for their success back on them by having them define it and tell me what it was. I had other people that said, Marie, you can't go back in there and ask them what it is they expect because you can't give everybody what they expect. And I go, I'm not going to agree to everything they say.
Yeah.
If they expect something that I can't deliver, then I'm going to come back and say, nope, I don't want you to expect that. We don't do that. That could be done through professional services, or that could be done this way, or I can go get someone else, or the product doesn't do that. You're going to have to build it yourself. But I could set the expectations so that I knew 6 months later I could meet them. But then we even went further with it, and we put in our CRM system an expectation record attached to each account. And so there may be 6 to 10 expectation records, and we would list out what the expectation was. So anybody could go into the CRM system and see what we were working towards and what we had committed. And what I even did with our survey system, instead of asking people loyalty surveys and generic questions, as soon as an expectation record was set up, then it would be sent to our research department, and they would go in on that record and enter a question to say, did we meet this expectation? So that when we created our surveys to go out, it would be pulling out of the CRM system to create a very customized survey to see if we met the expectations for those customers. And so at the end of the 6 months or the time period, we would talk to the customers and say, do you feel successful? And we would have reviewed all the expectations. And sometimes we would have met all their expectations, and they would come back and say, well, I guess I have to be feeling successful because you did everything you committed to do. And I said, no, if you don't feel successful, if we didn't accomplish it, then we need to go reset the expectations. We need to be doing something different. We need to change what we're doing. So be honest with me so that we can adjust that and we can continue to work together. And so there were a lot of things like that we were doing. And so it's not about renewing contracts. It's not about calling and making sure that the renewal's coming in the way some people treat that job.
Yeah, but you as you said, it's so basic human being attitude, because most of the people, they don't buy a software, they want a solution, they want to expectation. So don't matter if they buy a software, a car, they want expectation. A travel is more bigger than just a software, a product, right?
Yes.
I think your background in therapy was very important.
It shows through, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Mary, if you could return in that time, would you do something different, or no, everything was okay for now? You changed something in methodology, customer success, or no, everything was okay in that time of the story?
You know what? If I look back on it, I have to say, I don't think I have any regrets. I'm sure that had we continued and, I continued to run it and do it, it would have evolved. I think there would have been things that we learned, but there aren't any things that I look back on and think, oh, we really messed this up. We shouldn't have done this way. We should have done that. So no, I think I would have continued down the path. And like I said, I would have added to it. I'm sure I would have evolved it, but there weren't things that disappointed me with what we did.
I think, I don't know what the future just belongs to God or the new technology. As we have today, until today, a big pen, big pen in the same standard, the same design, big pen,
Yes.
let's see in the future how will change or not change the design of customer success. Because for me, it's a human solution, human being solution, not the a technology solution. It put a human being side in the sales areas.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
That
And the software should be nothing more than a tool to support the behavior and to help
yeah,
somebody track
yeah,
what they're
uh,
doing.
yeah. Mary, another point is uh, everybody want to when some fashion is arriving in the market, everybody want to create. Okay, let's create this customer success area, CRM area. Let's see this, let's see that, ombudsman area, a BDR area. In your opinion, where customer success area team should be in the company? In the CIO, in the marketing, is a new separate area to be impartial? Where should be delegate? Because if because some it's very danger if you don't you if this area does not have autonomy, and empowerment. Where, in your
Yeah.
opinion, should be your area customer success in the company?
Um, well, we certainly put it into the services area, and that was the original intent, was that it was a services position. Um, I could see putting it as its own division in a company, because the way we did it was, it's an interesting thing. I'd forgotten this, that John, when we did it, he came back and told the people in the company that he was giving me the title of customer controller. And
Yeah,
much like a financial controller had a fiduciary responsibility to go all the way to the board over anybody's head to say there's something that is not right with the finances in this company, he came back and said, you are the customer controller, and I'm telling everybody, board included, even if you have to go over my head, that that's your fiduciary responsibility to make sure our customers are taken care of. And if you don't think something's happening right by our customers, you have the authority to stop anything that we're doing. And he held fast to that. And I think that regardless of where my position was in the company, the way John empowered me by just that statement, not just that he said it to me, but he told everybody that's how
yeah,
important our customers were. It wasn't just about me, but he was telling everybody that our customer relationships are just as valuable and just as critical as our financials are. And so I had that support. I
yeah,
had it. And it is interesting because I have gone to so many conferences for services, and you'll hear the keynote speakers say, well, it has to start at the top. And I
yeah,
was very lucky that it did start at the top for me, but I always would come back after that because I'd see every shoulder, every head bow in the audience because they didn't have that support. And I always want
yeah,
to remind everybody that it doesn't matter. If John Luongo didn't care anything about services, and I did when I was on that phone with the customer was going to get a good level of service. I
yeah,
had the control over what was happening at that time. If John believed it with all of his heart, and the person that's on the phone taking care of that customer in that moment didn't care, didn't matter what John thought at the top. It matters where the rubber meets the road. It matters where the person is that's talking to that customer. And so sometimes, yes, we find that there are policies or procedures in a company that keep someone from being able to take care of a customer, which is frustrating. And that has to be taken care of at the top. But taking care of that customer starts with
yeah,
each individual person. And I think you have to have that mentality in the company as much as it matters where the position is. But
yeah,
I don't think it works in sales. I will just
yeah.
say that. Don't put it in your sales department.
Yeah, very interesting. But very interesting. The first name that they delegate you as a controller. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
that I think most of some people uh, who is going to watch this interview during the week, they are going to think about this controller of the
Yeah.
customer, not just
Yeah.
the money, but the relationship, the expectation of the customer. It's very interesting concept to use it.
Yeah. It was a strong message. And as I'm thinking
Yeah,
back on it, we've talked before about the fact that I every one of our customers had my home phone number. They had my cell phone number. They could call me directly. John Luongo put all of his numbers out there like that. And I think that just that message, I think in 10 years, I got one call from a customer on my home line. And he was so apologetic for having done so. But you give that to somebody and they believe you and they know that you mean what you're saying. And I think it's that sincerity and that honesty, again, as much as it is the position of customer success management, it's a way of being, to me, that's going to make the position successful or not. Did we lock up?
Hi, Mary. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry for that. For that.
No worries.
Uh, but thank you for response. Another question here is about this situation here. As I
Mm-hmm.
told you, I am always research what's going on in the marketing. For example, here, my last book, the book of all 20 methodologies to improve the relationship between company and customer. That is, if you want to be a Disney, if you want to be a Zappos, NPS, Customer Success Association, whatever, many tools, many process methodology. Beyond that, you can add CRM, ombudsman, customer success, BI, data science, after sales, whatever. Uh, what will really save the retention of the customer? You think we already have all information, we already have all methodology, all process in the world, or you think there is some missing point, a blind point that company is still not working with data, with process, technology, or people? What do you think?
Um, I don't know that I think of it in terms of technology or methodology so much. I do think that one of the big things that we would talk about, and again, it's one of those things where when you called, I started recalling a lot of the stuff, but
Yeah.
we would talk a lot about the fact that while people measure customer success, or they measure customer loyalty, they measure customer retention, I think that the goal has to be higher than that. We would talk in terms of it being customer advocacy. And customer advocacy we defined as being where someone would plead your case, build your case, or plead your cause to other people. And I think that when you reach that level, when you have that big of an advocate, and you can get people to be advocates before they've even bought from you, right? To me, when we were talking CRM, people would always draw the line across that this was from the first time till they're renewing, and they would show the customer life cycle. And I remember we took that and turned it into a circle, and I would call it customer advocacy, the unearned increment. Because if you don't close that loop and make the circle connect, then you aren't going to grow as a company as you need to, right? We another thing, it's all coming back, but the other thing we talked about was 100% referenceability. And people would say, how can you have 100% people reference you? And we'd say, everybody has 100% referenceability. It's just, what's the reference that you're getting, right? Is it a positive one or is it a negative one? What's the thing they're saying at a dinner table, at a conference, at a cocktail hour? What are they saying about you? Because that's where the advocacy kicks in. And that's when your advocates begin to be your lead gen, right? Because as soon as people are, we've had times where at Quova, I remember we were selling to our software, our products to Expedia, and he called his friend over at Orbitz, even though they were competitors, and said, you need to talk to these guys at Quova. They're different. What they're offering is different. I love talking to them. We closed our deal with Orbitz before we closed the deal with Expedia, right? So you can create that advocacy all the way through, and it's that level that you want to achieve. That's where you measure whether you've done what you needed to do with your customers, is how many leads are coming from your customer base. How often are they telling other people to come to you? And so probably of their tools, I'd say there's a place to have tools that would measure that, to measure that entire cycle and measure where are my leads coming from. And it's not even a, I think it'd be interesting to have to design, because how do you know that that came from someone else? It's not going to be a drop-down list and say, I heard about you because my next door neighbor had a dinner party, and right. But you begin to know that you've got that reputation in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging great challenge that we have here in Brazil, since the evolution of telecommunication, internet here in Brazil, the role about CRM, relationship with customer, is most of the CIO of company here, they are afraid. They don't want, or sometimes they don't are prepared to give empowerment for the ambassador in the phone line, the employee. They scare people, a company like Zappos, oh my God, they have autonomy in the front line. In Brazil, they are scared because they pay a minimum wage for these people who attend phone call, minimum wage. How I'm going to give empowerment this guy who have got a minimum wage, and however, some company, they are learning that this same employee is like an ambassador.
Yes.
So that's the challenge that we're facing in Brazil.
I don't think it's just in Brazil. I think it's worldwide that we face that challenge, because there is that balance that you look and you think, how do I empower someone on that front line and give them that power? Can they mess up my entire business? And I think that you have ways to measure what an employee is doing. You reward them when they're doing, again, this is the music therapy coming out, but you have reward systems and you encourage them when they've done the right thing. If they don't, and they give something away or they gave something, you find out about it very quickly, and you sit down and say, that wasn't a good decision. Right. And you do that with compassion. I'll share this. This is a crazy story, but I was thinking of it the other day. I worked for Six Flags amusement parks for 10 years. And I remember when I was 18 and they made me a supervisor, and I was going to be managing a department of about 625 people as a supervisor. And the boss sat me down and said, you get paid now to make decisions. He goes, there's one thing you can do to lose your job. He goes, you make a good decision, you did your job, you did it well. You make a bad decision, you did your job, just not as well as we would have liked, and we'll fix it. If you don't make a decision, you didn't do your job and you didn't get to keep it, right? And so I look at that and I think we need to teach people to make decisions, right? And most of the time, if you teach any employee, I don't care how much you're paying them, if you teach any human being what are the things that are the good choices and why you would be making those choices, that's what they're going to do. And if they don't, there's a way to go fix that. But you don't go keep from having that program that works for the 95%, because you might have 5% that would abuse it and not do it very well. It's easy enough to track and go correct the 95%, or even get rid of the 95, to correct the 5%, or even get rid of the 5%. So you don't take that away from everybody else in the world, because somebody might abuse it, right?
Yeah. As we are arriving at the finish of the interview, but my conclusion is, John was very happy, but they bring a therapy for their company. A therapist.
Probably.
You are a therapist. That was the reason you create everything and make the company more human being. I'm happy with this story that you share with us.
Thank you.
I hope as soon as possible to work with you here in Brazil virtually, or here in Brazil with consulting for some company, training, whatever. Let's prepare ourselves for during this COVID quarantine. But I hope to bring your acknowledgement here for Brazil, for other company to bring this side, not just thinking implementation of a platform, customer success, just a book, but your the proper way how to implement the customer service area in a company, right?
Well, I'm going to hold you to that, and I am going to download Babbel for Portuguese and begin to practice.
Yeah, because
I know some Spanish, but I need to start learning a little bit of Portuguese.
We work on this, because most of the people that I invite you to watch this interview, they are going to, after live, they are going to activate automatic translation. Then YouTube is going to translate for them. Because I'm a member of many customer success group here in Brazil. So my last question is, if God will hire you for a last mission, what will you embrace if you prefer something?
Oh, wow. I might have to get back with you on that one. If God was putting in my path, you know what?
Now it's not John, it's the God.
Yeah. No, there've been a couple of projects that I've worked on that, had my heart, right? That it wasn't just, and I think that
which one will you choose?
My career has been blessed. My life has been blessed. It has been enriched by the people that have been a part of it. And that continues to be what is important to me. I was working on a project in the healthcare space that could have really made a huge difference, and funding fell through, and there were a number of things that we had to just let it go. But with that one, I thought, oh, I'm making a difference. But you know what? Today, I'm going to walk away and feel like, actually, I may have made a difference that I didn't know that I had made.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm going to let myself feel that today. And I thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the last question that I normally I not send it for privilege for my guests.
I know you didn't let me prepare for that one.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody who invest your time watching the Mary Alexander. Her contact information is in down, scrolling in the screen. You can contact directly with her, or talk with me if you need some partnership with her to bring some business for Brazil. The next guest is on February 23rd is Paula Valho. She's head of customer experience Natura, one of the biggest cosmetic company in South America here. Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. God bless you, and I hope soon as possible we talk again. Okay.
Me too, thank you.
Ok, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bem. Obrigado a todos. Então, sugiro vocês ativarem, assim que terminar a live, ativar a tradução simultânea para vocês assistirem integralmente a entrevista, já com a legenda traduzida para português, tá bom? Muito obrigado, fique com Deus e até semana que vem com a Paula Pimenta Valho, Head de Atendimento ao Cliente na América Latina do Grupo Natura, que foi eleita executiva do ano em 2020, tá? Em teleserviços, tá bom? E muito obrigado ao patrocínio exclusivo da Zorro CRM, que acredita agora em nosso projeto. Muito obrigado e até semana que vem.